Hello, hello. There we go. Good afternoon. It is good to be here with you for this inaugural event. I was excited when they asked me to do it, and so thankful that you ladies were willing to come and be with us here today. And most of you know both of them, but I will give a little bit of an introduction. I'll start with State Representative Joanna McClinton, who is a Democrat. She serves parts of West and Southwest Philadelphia and Yeadon and Darby and Delco. She's made history twice as the first woman and African American elected caucus chair in 2018. And then in 2020, she became the first woman elected House Democratic leader. She's local and a graduate of LaSalle and Villanova Law. And to her right is State Representative Martina White, who is a Republican. She represents Bustleton, Millbrook, Parkwood, and Somerton. She was elected in 2015, becoming the first new Republican elected from Philadelphia in 25 years. She's the first woman to chair the Philadelphia GOP. She also serves as the secretary of the House Republican Caucus, and she's a graduate of Elizabethtown College. So first of all, I'm going to start with essentially asking you how you got here. Like, what made you say, I want to go into politics, and how and why did you choose your party? I'll start with you, Martina.
Sure. So I was actually asked to run for public office by a local committee woman and longtime family friend. We were out at an event, and she suggested that I run, or at least consider it, for a special election where the seat had become open due to, I don't know if you're familiar with Congressman Brendan Boyle, but he used to hold my seat, and he won his congressional district. So in an exciting time, and in a time where obviously not many people believed that a Republican could win in the city of Philadelphia, it was very unexpected. I decided to run because a lot of times there's no one for people to pick from on the ballot. You know, Republicans either can't get on because there's not enough registered Republicans in the district, or the Republican just there's no candidate running. So I decided in that way to run, but also because I love helping people. For a long time, I actually worked as a financial advisor, helping families and small businesses with financial planning and how to save for college, et cetera. But from there, it was just an exciting time for me in my life. I was pretty young. I was only like 26. So trying to decide what to do was really just about leaving the door open for an opportunity for change and a career path that I, obviously enjoy today. So I'm really glad that I made that jump over to serving in public office. Yeah.
Joanna?
So I want to start off by saying I was working in the Senate when Martina was elected, and I saw her in the hallway one day outside her office, and I popped in there, and I regret these words today. But but I said something like, I'm so proud of you. It's a joke. It's just a joke. And I'm still proud of her because she was a young woman, was not expected to win, and I was just proud. I was working in the Senate and was so excited, and I ended up running later that year and had no plans of running for office in my life.
Give you a lot of hope, Joanna.
You showed me the lights. I needed to get elected myself. I was working in the Senate for Senator Anthony Hardy Williams as his chief counsel. Before that, I was a public defender for almost 10 years here in Philly. And I was one of the women it took several asks. My senator was the main one asking, and I kept saying, not interested. I work here. I see what it's like. I do not want to put my name on the ballot and be the reason why it's raining. I just rather not deal with that. So after several asks and a really brief period, similarly, the next special election that was to occur in 2015 was going to be in August. It's like, okay, get real. You don't have to do it. Everybody else wants to do it. But I'd like to support you because I know you. You've worked in the office. You've developed a good reputation amongst our constituents. And so I had one weekend to look myself in the mirror and ask, why am I afraid to run for office? What is it? Is it because I'm not worthy? Is it because I think I might lose? And I'm so grateful that I got out of my head, listened to my senator and those around me who said I could do it, and ran, because it is an opportunity that I truly enjoy. I love my community and I love serving my neighbors, and look up, and now I'm in leadership like Martina as the first woman to lead our caucus. It's a whole lot of work and major responsibilities in the times we're facing, but it's a true privilege and honor.
And ladies, I have to say it's easy for people to throw stones and complain, so we are grateful for those who are willing to be the woman in the arena. So thank you both for that. And it is a truism that politics in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania is a boys' club. And I'm sure you have a great story that you think of. I want to hear it and how you got around it. I'll start with you, Martina.
Yeah, this is a really tough one.
This is all off the record. We won't tell them what you
Are
said.
you sure? Is that camera off in the back? Listen, I'm just kidding. So, look, the legislature is very enjoyable, but also a very challenging place to work. You have to build relationships, and it involves working across party lines, but also with other members that come from different backgrounds and different times in their experience in their life. So when I first got in 2015, my mentor was John Taylor, who was at that time the only elected Republican in the city for like 30 years or so. And he was amazing, but when you are trying to build those relationships with other members that he knows, and he's been, around for, again, 30 years, I'm not going out to smoke cigars. Like, that's not my thing. But, you try to find ways to relate, and you try to find ways to work together. And the way I just kind of worked around it was just trying to, go to the dinners and go to the lunches and try to get to know the members in a different outlet instead of, just having to go to the cigar smoke lounge thing. So, I mean, it's one of the examples. I'm sure there's many others, but I am very proud to have had John Taylor as a mentor. Even though he was an older gentleman, he certainly taught me a lot. And when I first got up there, he taught me, he's like, Martina, just remember, he took me to the top of the House floor, and we're standing there, and he's like, just remember that each of these people is the best that their district had to offer. I was like, okay, duly noted, John. Thank you for that clarification. So, like I said, it's about building those relationships and finding the way to make it work.
My guess is there are a few people that you said, really? And they said, what? And you said, never mind.
Yeah.
Joanna?
So it was a tough transition. When I was knocking doors, telling my neighbors I work in the Senate, so I understand Harrisburg. My first day in the House was the budget override vote when we were late in 2015 with a budget, and everybody was screaming and banging the desks. And I'm like, I've listened to the House on end when I was working in the other chamber. I never heard this background noise or saw this rowdiness. And to just get to the House and to be, to this day, still one of 9 women of color, it is challenging. When I first got there, I'd have people say, oh, you remind me of my daughter, my granddaughter. Am I allowed to tell you you look nice? Just a variety of challenges with interacting with a predominantly male institution, where at that time, not so much today, but in 2015, most of the men were like Chairman Taylor. They'd been there for 30 plus years. So it was difficult, but what I just tried to do is what I do in every environment. Let people know who I am and really listen to find out who they are, what their priorities are, and build a relationship in that way. And very few times was it uncomfortable and strange. Usually people find themselves, when you're greeting them warmly, to give you the warm greeting as well and get to know you and not look at you like you're a child or less than because you're one of few women who are on the floor of the House.
So you both have achieved historic heights in what you have done. Do you find as women in these roles that you lead differently or not really, other than that sometimes you wear a skirt? Martina.
So I am very much a lead by example kind of person, and that's a model that I have taken ever since I was younger. And in college, I was able to be the captain of my field hockey team to today being able to lead many members across our caucus and try to bring people together. Because that's really the key, is making sure that when you say something and when you believe in something, that you actually put your actions behind it. Whenever I come across a challenge, that's immediately what I think about. I'm like, am I actually going to put myself in a position that the other person's in and be able to express to them what needs to get done and how to do it? So I would just say lead by example has been my philosophy, and I stick by it for sure.
Is there any way, though, that you think in being a woman that you've solved a problem, broken a log jam, had a conversation? There's something that you think you did differently?
Yeah, I think it's more about being from Philadelphia than being a woman. It's kind of our way here. We like to get stuff done, and we usually don't take no for an answer. So being a member of the leadership team, I definitely express myself at that table to ensure that I'm heard. And I do it in a meaningful way, and I do it when it's timely and appropriate, instead of, some people are just, pests, right? And they're frustrating and annoying, and it's like, why do I have to listen to this person anymore? But no, I really try to do it in a meaningful, purposeful way so that we can accomplish the goals that we have here for Philadelphia and for our Commonwealth and for its future, because our citizens are counting on us. Particularly me, as the only Philadelphia Republican in the House majority that's ran by Republicans. Without me there, and without Democrats being in the majority, Philadelphia, there's not a whole lot of interest in what happens here without me advocating for us. So I'm always happy to lend an ear, but also make sure that our voice is heard from our area. Thanks.
Joanna, is there a way that you think you lead differently because you are a woman, or a way that you've put an issue to members or made them think differently?
So I definitely think women lead differently. Our lives, our lifestyles, so much are just not known to men. So many things that we have to do and deal with, multitasking, whether you're an actual parent or whether you're a caregiver to an older loved one. We have the ability to do things and approach leadership with fresh perspectives because we're used to having no other options. I saw my mother, a single parent, had no other options except to get it done. Whatever that means. Does that mean working another job? Does that mean staying up late? Does that mean from first to fourth grade, finding the time to sit down with me because I couldn't focus and doing homework with me? So it means women are determined to be productive with the space we're in. And when I first ran to be the caucus chair, one challenge we had at that time was occasionally it getting rather rowdy. And the members were saying, well, what are you going to do differently? I said, just watch. Just wait and watch. It will be different and you will not hear from them. And I had my own methods. And then some people would say, why are you texting me about the noise? Because I don't want to embarrass you, but this is the first warning. If you continue your side conversation, I'm going to gavel you down and call you out on the microphone. Nobody wants to be embarrassed. But they'd say, we're glad you're not the caucus chair anymore. You don't send us those subtle messages. That's right, subtle, but not so subtle.
And you notice she said that all with a lovely smile. So I started my career in magazines at Time Magazine, and the question always was, when would a woman get a chance to be the editor-in-chief? And as a friend said to me, we got it as soon as they broke it. The boys break it, and they're having all kinds of trouble, and that's when a woman gets an opportunity to come in, and I should say she righted the ship in a number of ways. And Martina, I'm starting with this one with you, because when you came in 2015, the party here was going through a lot of things in terms of the vote, attracting candidates. It was not an easy job to take on. Do you think that it took those dire times and challenges for them to finally be open to, let's let somebody different run the show?
Yeah, look, the Philly GOP has definitely gone through different stages throughout its time. And right now, I think it's a critical time for leadership in our party to take hold, And when the transition took place, it was really something that, in my mind, had to happen. And so I facilitated it. I took action. I went to the leader at the time and I said, look, we just lost one of the city council seats. It's pretty embarrassing, actually, when two of them were reserved for the minority party. And we need real change. We need to actually hold our counterparts and colleagues accountable, and likewise for us, so that there is a two-party system at the very least in this city. And there can be diversity of thought and more opportunities for difference of opinions to come forward as in terms of candidates. So I met with the chairman at the time and I said, look, I have the votes to make a move and I'm going to do that. So I'm asking for you to please, step aside and I will take this party in a different direction. And respectfully, you can keep your legacy, if you want to call it that. And so, I moved the ball forward for the party. This year we had just candidates coming from all across the city wanting to run for the state house, and I believe that that's where our focus as an organization has to be. You have to build from the ground up, and you also have to be willing to, accept change and realize that the grand old party really needs to step up their game if they're going to survive into the future. Because there are young people out there who have, conservative views, but they're a little nervous to express them because of some of the backlash that they get, whether it be at college or, some other places that have normally been able to, you can say whatever you want to say, but you have to understand there may be some ramifications for that. But as a party, I was just ecstatic because the ward leaders did accept me. They voted for me. And I think that being a woman in that role, being a young female taking on this responsibility was a big deal for our party. You guys still have Bob Brady, right? Just
Let me
kidding.
check the website.
Check the website. Yeah. Check out the website. But we're really trying to build that momentum and get young, interested people who have conservative views, and they're not even outlandish. They're real. Like school choice. How do we make sure that our kids are getting a quality education and that their parents have an option when they're not getting the right educational opportunity in our local public school? Can we send them to a private school or a parochial school, et cetera? So those are just some of the areas where people have an opportunity to come and express those views and start to advocate for those issues that they care most about and what's impacting their community when, maybe our colleagues, people, the public don't feel like they're getting the job done. So I'm excited about it. I'm really just proud of the work that we've done so far. You can go on to phillygop.com and check it out. You'll see some of our candidates. We came pretty close on the special election for state senate. Recently, the gentleman who ran was Sam Orapiza, and we got 45% or so of the vote. But we're working toward having a goal, having a plan, and it's long term. It's not going to happen overnight, unless everybody in this room wants to switch to Republican before the end of the day. I'm allowed to say that here. This is all part of it. It's part of the process, and we just appreciate your indulgence and the opportunity to be a part of this city and have that alternative view to express it here.
And Joanna, your views on a sense that sometimes it takes the guys bollocksing it up before they'll let a woman take a crack at it. Did you find that to be the case in some things?
So similar to my first run for state rep in 2015, I was not going through the last election cycle gathering votes for leader. I was very happy with the leader we've had. He'd been good to myself and other members. I was proud to finally work with him at a table as the caucus chair. I really thought I was just putting votes in my pocket for caucus chair reelection. And Martina's work outdid her because my leader lost in southwestern Pennsylvania. He was the last Democrat in Westmoreland County, and when he succumbed to, the electoral defeat, members, interestingly enough, first in Allegheny County started calling me saying I should run. And I'm like, why would I do that? I've got a nice leadership opportunity and I don't want to take on the whole caucus, and be responsible for everything from HR to, being on the floor fighting nonstop to giving the last speech on important debates. I said, with all due respect, I'm sure there are other folks who are interested. And they said, well, Joanna, you're the only woman who's on the leadership team. If you don't run, when will a woman run? And it was something like that. That's the usual guilt trip that you all do. That started to resonate, and I kept hearing it over and over again. If I don't run, when will a woman have an opportunity? And because it's true, just like other positions, as Martina was describing with her prior predecessor, once you're in charge of something, you usually stay for a little bit. You don't stay forever, but you stay for a little bit. So it's like if someone else was to run, it was going to be a man, and he'd likely be the leader for a few terms or several, or who knows how long. So I thought to myself, let me see if we can get some traction here, talk to my colleagues about what my vision is for our caucus and how to have a fresh approach. Because the one thing that is true, everything in life changes. And if we are so holding on to the way we thought electoral politics should happen or the way we perceived who should be on the floor giving speeches, then there's never room at the table for different voices. There's never room at the table for women to take a shot at it. And so I'm thrilled to be at that table and to be doing the job as the leader for our caucus. And I recognize, and they recognize, that my approach is in fact different. They, the top tier staff, they're like, we're just not used to this level of engagement. I'm like, no, I want to know what happened with the meeting. I want to know what people asked for. I want to know where we're standing as we approach this budget that's coming up, and we have everything lined up so that we're responsive, so that we are actually showing the difference of my leadership, not the way you all had done things for the last few years. So it's an exciting challenge, but it's also requiring lots of hard work.
And a question I'm sure lots of people in this room have, as we look at Pennsylvania, to have never had a female governor, to never have had a female senator, when will the woman in City Hall be running the show? These are questions we have. Why hasn't that happened? And which party do you think will get there first? And I want an honest answer. I know you're supposed to say your party, but an honest answer. Martina.
A girl can dream, okay? No. No. So I would say, I think we're more likely to see the first female governor before any other maybe position that's up as of late in terms of U.S. Senate or Congress on the Republican side. Even our congressional delegation does not have a female Republican representing the Commonwealth anywhere down in D.C. So, we're really, working toward that and making sure that more women run for office. We need to constantly encourage women, especially young women, to get involved in anything political, whether it be at the local level or higher up. But you have to be civically engaged. You really want to make sure that these young women know that they have a support system once they even get into office, that it's okay to be able to have a family and that you can do it. It's real. Like, every day there are women out there who get up and they take care of their kids, they get them off to school, and then they go to work and they make these important decisions for the Commonwealth. And for me, being a young female in Harrisburg, it's challenging because you don't want to be judged, but every day we get judged, no matter are you going on a date over here with that guy and why, or what's your deal? And you just have to recognize that you have your own life to live, and you are able to achieve what you set out for as your goals, and anything is possible. And I always ask myself, like, why not me? Is there something I need to learn? Is there something I need to do to train or to get better as a person in order to achieve that end goal? And that's a really good question to ask yourself periodically. Like, why not me? Why don't I deserve to get a raise? Why don't I, you know what I mean? Like, those are those types of questions that really make all the difference as you try to build yourself up and be able to encourage other women to get involved and engage in the political process. And I would just say one other thing real quick. As Republicans in Harrisburg, as females, we do get together and we talk about what we actually need in order to, if support the other female. If they want to go to Congress or they want to become the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, like, how do we as other female colleagues help to support them to get there and to make the right contacts and connections? How do we network with other people who can support that effort as well and kind of team up and tank out, So.
Why do you think it hasn't happened? Why do you think we haven't seen a Republican woman sitting in these positions?
I think it's more just that we need more women to run. And the more frequently that happens, the more the public will be acceptable to voting for a female to run in Pennsylvania. That's what Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think that's really the key, is that people have to become more accustomed to seeing women being in the role of leadership and being able to do the job well and to express our views in a positive light.
Joanna?
I I'm going to start with that, able to do the job well. When you are the first woman to do one of these jobs, the amount of pressure and the expectation that you not just do it the way the last man did it, but you do it 10 times better. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I'm very grateful to many folks I see in this room, Lois Haggerty, Mustafa Rashid, Christine Jacobs, to make sure that as the first woman, I'm doing it better. I mean, you cannot do it by yourself. If you don't have folks who are literally patting you on the back, encouraging you, showing up to your events, letting you know when you need to improve, because we all need to hear that. Yes, you need to improve on that skill, or you need to get better in that area. But without that support, it doesn't happen. And without women starting everywhere, I mean, we're in the city of Philadelphia, but anyone who's here from one of the counties and you live in one of the municipalities, run for school board, run for state representative, state senate. If we don't see anything changing, if we don't actually put ourselves out there, I am thrilled to know that in the city of Philadelphia, we have a mayor's race next year. So I'm not going to say we will not have a Democratic woman become mayor. I would love to see this city ran by a woman who's been in this city, whether she's born here or moved here, whatever it might be. It would be exciting. It'd be an exciting opportunity for change. Of course, while they're recounting the ballots for the Senate primary, I don't know how they even trust those ballots, by the way. They were just trying to throw them all out. I mean, it's odd that now our election system is actually safe and secure. The irony. It's just crazy. But there has not been a woman on either side of the ticket. There were women on both sides of the primary. Neither of them made it out. So we will not see a woman United States Senator in the immediate future. There's a governor's race this November, and there are not any women on that ticket at this time either. So I think we have to get real serious about, if we want to see women go to those higher offices, they just don't get there. I was teasing Martina when we were having lunch because I called her and told her she should think about the Senate. Or I talked to her on the floor about it last year. I said, you should think about running for Senate, because at the least, it elevates your profile, gets you new donors. I mean, you have to get out there. And when you think about where you are now, women who are currently in office have to figure out, will this compromise what I'm currently doing? Will this be a problem for my voters or my constituents or whoever I serve right now? So we have to get more women to the table to run for other things, and not just say, well, you two are in office, run for everything, because that's not smart.
Why do you think it hasn't happened yet? That people could imagine a state rep or a school council member, but they can't make that jump to putting a woman in those seats. Why do you think it hasn't happened?
Absolutely. So it's a level of progression. So you randomly or do not see women, just waking up one day saying, I'm running for the top office in the state as the executive. I have no public experience in service or elected office, and now I'm going to run for governor. So let's look. In the Pennsylvania Senate, there are 50 senators. There are only 14 women. 0 women of color. In the Pennsylvania House, there are 203 of us. There are 60 women. It's the highest it's ever been in our history. And there are 9 women of color, 0 Latinas, only 1 Asian woman. So the representation is low. Pennsylvania is kind of at the bottom for representation. We have 51% women in our population, but only 27% in the state legislature. So how is a woman just going to wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a United States Senator, if they don't start as a state rep or as a state senator and build a base of support so that they can go from there and take off? Until that is resolved at the bottom, where we currently serve, where we don't have as many women as we should, until that's resolved, I don't know how quickly we can have a serious candidate for governor or for the United States Senate as a woman. But certainly it's something that needs to change, because if our daughters, our children do not see it, how can they dream about it?
You both are involved in urging people to run and grooming candidates. Do you find that it's different getting female candidates to step up? Do you find it's harder for some reason? And what's the one piece of advice that you give them? There must be something that you say, keep this in mind.
So I would say just a couple of things. one of which is, yes, first of all, it's challenging to recruit candidates in a broad respect. As a Philly GOP chair, I fully understand that, because people don't want to have to put themselves out there. They don't want their whole social media accounts from when they were like in college to be out in the public arena. They don't want their own personal, issues that may have happened in their past to come forward. And everybody goes through life, and life is challenging. So everybody has something out there that they are worried about. So trying to put those kinds of concerns to rest is, something that we work through with candidates. But also, I think in terms of when we were speaking earlier about women and running for higher office and trying to recruit candidates for that, the financial commitment on that end, as you've noticed with the U.S. Senate race, these are multi-billionaires in the race, right? At least on the Republican side. I can't speak to the other side, but on the Republican side, these people are like multi-billionaires that are running, and that financial aspect, even like Governor Wolf, right? He was self-funded. These people are coming in and they are self-funded, and it's not always necessarily the way in which good leaders are able to come about. That's not necessarily the best way either, in my opinion, because you want local people to build themselves up over time. You want them to be able to grow and understand what the procedures are in Harrisburg or locally when it comes to your county government, and be able to understand Pennsylvania as a whole and how it functions and how it can improve. Whereas when the folks come in from the outside, it can be good as a disruptive measure, but it can also be destructive. And we need to ensure that we're selecting candidates that we know can actually lead. Back when Governor Ed Rendell, as the terrorist is named after, he loved everything about Pennsylvania and promoted us across the country, across the world as a place to come and be and prosper. Today, you kind of look to who is the major leader in the Commonwealth, who is doing that, who's responsible for that. And that's, where we're kind of struggling, I think. And that's why we see some of the concerns around the, who the candidates are that are running. Are they really going to, do what's in our best interest when they're just coming in with the multi-billions of dollars to run a race? Whereas, a candidate like myself, like running for U.S. Senate, that sounds amazing, but I don't necessarily want to go to D.C. There's too many, battles down there I wouldn't want to have to deal with, I think. But
nobody wants to deal with an insurrection.
No. True story. True story.
I think I just want to go to coffee with these two monthly and bring popcorn.
Huh? Oh, yeah. Exactly. But I would just say, and in terms of supporting women to run for higher office, really look to that and financially support, because there are these guys that are out there, which we love our guys, but they're always right there to easily will write the check out for their friend because it's their buddy, or because it is a guy that they can easily relate to, whereas the female candidate doesn't have that type of level of financial support that we would like to see, I think, to be able to grow in that role.
And I'll say, we all have to spend time making fundraising calls. And I can recall very early on calling a personal friend, and it's harder to ask your personal friends for money for you to run for office, no matter how great your ideas are and how wonderful it would be to change these laws. And my personal friend said, I gave her the levels of this event, and she said, I think I can do $25. I'm thinking, not one shoe in your closet costs, less than $150, but I need to raise 50 grand, and you're going to give me $25, and you're like, thanks, with a smile on your face. And it is difficult. So I'd encourage the entire audience, for the women that are in elected office that you believe in, that you make sure you're there for them, because it's not the same. The men who are lawyers, I'm an attorney, the men all get a job at a law firm automatically. They all become partners at a firm. They're able to host this event and host that event. And women, it's much more difficult, because oftentimes, and I was recruiting a woman who I spoke to this morning who said, I couldn't have won without without you. And I said, no, you didn't win without you. I wasn't there. I'm not the candidate. I didn't knock the doors. I might have sent you some help, but you are the one who was able to get this victory. And it is because she was trying to figure out, if I'm a business owner, if I have a family, if I have to take care of my sick dad, how am I going to also run for state house? And I'm explaining to her, the seat is open. There's no incumbent. This is the best time. We take advantage of these opportunities for you to put yourself forward, even if it means you have to figure out how to manage the 10 burners on the stove all going at the same time.
I think we're all concerned about the state of our democracy and our ability to be civil at best and productive in any case. And I noticed, we just got through primary season. Everybody's fighting. That's the tagline. I will fight for you. I'll fight for this. Fight, 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 fight. And I said, I'll vote for anybody who says, you're not going to get everything, but you might get some things. And we can figure out how to give everybody something. I don't think that ad is coming. Do you think if we had more women in the game, we could maybe have a conversation or a political discourse that wasn't always about you are my enemy? It feels like we forget that we're all Americans. You are not my opposite, you are my enemy.
Well, I think Joanna's amazing, and I don't find her to be an enemy. We do work a lot together. I think it's a sign of the times, and I think in part it's the ramifications of social media. I think people are living in bubbles, and they only are having their ideologies reinforced with social media, and also the media itself, what we watch on television. It's all just a reinforcement of the ideologies that people probably deep down inside hold. But I think that if we can get past all of that, then we can get a lot of really great things done in Harrisburg and elsewhere. But like you just said, the primaries really showed how polarized Pennsylvania, and I think the nation is right now. By electing on our Republican primaries, we had a lot of candidates, so it kind of pulled away by dividing up the vote amongst the more moderate, maybe common sense candidates, and we are now in a more, further to the right candidates are winning. And in part, it could be because, they don't see that the Republicans are getting the things that they want done in Harrisburg, so they're pulling further to the right. But I think even on the left, we see a pull further to the left, more progressive. The more progressive you are, the more money you get, the more, support you get. Whereas if you're just a moderate Democrat that's trying to get stuff done, you're out, buddy. Like, it's not okay. You're not doing well enough for us in terms of the agenda that's out there. But somewhere in the middle are the people who are common sense and are able to get stuff done, and they do work across party lines. And that's where I do my best to not only maintain my position in leadership by supporting some of the more conservative issues, but also trying to keep that common sense line to ensure that we actually do help Pennsylvania move forward in a positive direction. And it's a very difficult line to hold, but I do my very best, I can say that.
No, you do a good job at it. When Martina goes way off, I tell everybody she just needs to stay in leadership. Don't send her wild texts. Let her do what she needs to do to stay in leadership and hopefully advance, move up. I wish that she was currently the leader, because if she was the leader and I was the leader, I know that we could come to you today and say, for the last year and a half, we passed these important bills. But I can't say that because there's real politics happening in the state capitol where the agenda is non-existent. The agenda is to block, to obstruct, and to not spend the people's taxpayer dollars. And it's unfortunate because we find ourselves in year 3 of a pandemic, small businesses still struggling, billions of dollars from Washington that we may have to return if Martina's colleagues don't get their act together. It's unbelievable. No, I'm serious. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the fact that the caucuses as a whole are deciding to not do anything, to sit on their hands and say, well, what could we possibly do? We don't agree. And why isn't there an agreement? Because people are on the fringes. People are far, far on each side of the caucuses. On each side, you see the same types of ideology. Well, if we don't agree on all 10 issues, then you're not in my party. And that's unbelievable. We've come to that. When we did our swearing in last year, it was on the 5th of January. My entire speech was about us realizing the fragility of life and our democracy. As we sit in this museum, steps from where our democracy was born, we have to get real about it. We have to get serious about it, and we have to ensure everyone we know participates in the process. I have no doubt that the folks who are here, you all voted on May the 17th, but the folks who didn't vote, the fact that we had 20% participation in the city of Philadelphia, it's absolutely unacceptable. We have to let younger people know that it does count. Each vote does count. Choosing leadership does matter. As much as we all want to be apathetic and say nothing will get better or nothing will change, we have to be involved. We have to inspire. We have to stir up the interest in politics and civics in our youth and our young adults so that as the times continue to change, they'll actually not just be engaged, but they'll be interested and ready to also run for office themselves one day.
All right, I'm getting the 5-minute, yes. I'm getting the 5-minute warning, so we'll let this be the last question. As you know, we've had a horrifying week, and it's not the first, it's not the last, unfortunately, that we will see on some issue in America. And I would imagine it sits with you in a different way because you're in positions of leadership. Is there something you say to yourself, some sort of motto, something you think on at times like these when things are so heartbreaking? I'll start with you, Martina.
So, I have no words because I just get very upset anytime that I see violence on our streets, and what happened in Texas with the students and the teachers who were taken from our nation, future leaders potentially. It definitely is heartbreaking, and as a leader, you really have to stop and think about all of the actions that we take. Are they enough? How much more can we do? We have to do more. And what are those solutions that will help for the future? All I think about is trying to find those solutions, find the fix that will actually work, and then how to get it done. I would say in terms of our Republicans in Harrisburg, there's politics in everything, sadly. And this is no exemption, right? So we definitely have to find, like I said, the solution that will work to help support our children and their families, whether it be mental health resources, whether it be making sure that our schools have additional security measures put in place and protocols. I know I was talking with our honoree earlier today about this very issue. And, it's just sad that our society has brought us to this point, but we actually have to take action to make a difference. And I think that those actions involve making sure that those soft targets are hardened, that, there are more security measures at our schools, and that, there are more mental health resources available to those individuals who are facing severe issues at home or have gone through what the person there had gone through, and who conducted that violence. So in times like this, I look to God and I just say prayers, because it's really all that's left when policymakers aren't doing a well enough job, in my opinion. So we have to do more. I would say that our caucus is looking into measures in Harrisburg and obviously working with our colleagues across the aisle to find more solutions for our Pennsylvanians and our children here.
Joanna, last word.
Yeah, so I was rather defeated yesterday because I always hear an eagerness from my colleagues across the aisle to want to solve issues and resolve problems when we are talking especially about danger and violence. And I, unfortunately, am no stranger to violence. My brother survived a gunshot when I was a child here in Philadelphia and West Philly. And anyone who lives in our region, we are inundated with mass shootings all the time. During the weekday, during the weekend, it is not anything that we are strangers to, because we've been overwhelmed, as every major city has throughout this pandemic. It's just awful. I spend every Sunday about an hour and a half reading through the Times, and it was about a month ago that their lead story was gun violence in America totally out of control. They were talking about Pittsburgh, they were talking about Chicago, they were talking about Philadelphia. But when we see incidents happen that are one incident where there are several people targeted, particularly innocent children or innocent shoppers in a store, I just want to remind everyone that there was an armed security guard at that supermarket in Buffalo. There was an armed officer at that school in Texas. So the idea that we need to have security, I don't think it will protect anyone because we see that it is not working. One measure that we put forward on yesterday was to do an emergency vote on a ban, a full ban of assault rifles, because there's no legitimate reason for them. They are weapons of war. You should not be able to buy them and purchase them and have access to them. We can talk about mental health, but we don't fund mental health in Pennsylvania the way we should. We have to get serious about that in this upcoming budget. We can talk about out of control violence and what's the best solution, but the truth is there isn't one answer. We have to restrict access because clearly people are accessing these firearms and they do not have the ability to use them appropriately. They're not defending themselves or their property. They are targeting people, targeting any one of us. It's absolutely unreal. In 1791, when the Second Amendment passed, we didn't live in these types of conditions. First of all, I wouldn't be sitting on this stage, and that's another story for another day. But the idea that we're relying on centuries old changes to the Constitution to say we can't do anything, this is what this says. It's like, wait a minute, that's not an excuse. And as I go back to Harrisburg, June the 7th, I'm going to take this same energy. I might have been defeated last night, but the work is not done. We have a lot of work to do to protect everyone to ensure something like that does not happen in this Commonwealth.
I want to say thank you to all of you for being here. I want to say thank you to you two ladies. I want to say, Martina, you need to run to be the Republican leader so y'all can get things done, because I think that's the way it would work out. All right, thank you. We're going to go back to our seats, and I think the program is going to go on.